invading was real, serious, and immediate.
French fleets and troops sailed to America. The War of Independence has changed. The conflict has become global.
Passion governs, and she never governs wisely.
The colonies are not to be emancipated.
All men are created equal. Victory or death.
West Point was called, throughout the Revolution, the key to the continent. If there was one spot, one geographic location anywhere in the colonies that could be decisive toward the outcome of the war, it was West Point. The British thought if they could control it, they would win the war. The Americans thought the same thing. If the British ever controlled West Point, the Americans would lose the war.
After the French entered the war for America's independence in 1778, British strategy shifted towards dominating the southern colonies and the protection of the West Indies. But a golden opportunity still existed for winning the war in the north, an opportunity involving the vital Hudson River and West Point that could be made possible only through the treason of one of America's most successful generals, Benedict Arnold.
The Hudson River basically bisected the population. Half the Americans lived to the east, half lived to the west. The Hudson runs directly north out of New York City. The Americans couldn't cross it. There were no bridges. It was a completely unfordable river. In the face of a British Navy, if the British Navy had been able to run up and down the Hudson River, they would have effectively cut the colonies in two. Trade would have been cut off. Washington could not have maneuvered his army.
About 50 miles above New York City, a point of land reached out into the river from the western shore, West Point, the future site of the world's premier military academy. Just above West Point lay Constitution Island, jutting out into the river from the east.
As it goes around West Point, the river makes two 90-degree turns in a very tight area. And the river is at its narrowest point there. A sailing ship in that day and age couldn't sail around West Point. Warships or trading ships, when they got to that point, would have to stop, get a rowboat out front with sailors, and pull itself around the point.
The Americans felt that artillery stations placed on West Point and Constitution Island would have a good chance of stopping British warships attempting to drive upriver. But to completely thwart their opponents, they turned to a visionary, ambitious feat of engineering. The rebels forged a 65-ton chain and spanned the 600-yard-wide Hudson with it. The 114-pound links floated on 12 by 16-foot rafts, In 1778, they first stretched the chain from a fortified cove on West Point to another fortified cove on Constitution Island. The chain would stay in place until 1783, being removed only in the winters when ice solidly locked the Hudson.
At either end of the chain, they put artillery pieces, so a ship trying to be towed up would snag on the chain, and the artillery at almost point-blank range right there would blow it to bits. Then to protect that, they built a series of forts in a circle. Then to protect those going farther up in the mountains, they built another ring of forts. So you have several concentric rings of defenses. Made that complex in the war of that time impregnable.
But that which could not be attacked from without might be attacked from within. In May of 1779, Benedict Arnold covertly contacted the British High Command in America and offered his cooperation on some unspecified plan that could cause the fall of the rebel government. But the seeds of his treason had been germinating for several months, and during the next year, they would continue to grow. After the British gave up Philadelphia in 1778 because of France's entry into the war, Arnold, the wounded hero of Saratoga, became that city's military commander.